Okay, thank you. Tom,
Yeah, it's.
Derek, the mics are on now.
Oh, okay.
Yep, we're on.
Is mine the only one that's wobbly?
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
Oh, that lake was beautiful yesterday.
Which one were you on?
But
It was a
yeah,
little chilly out, but it was a nice day actually.
fishing was terrible.
Is it low?
And you still got to fill up McConaughey, Guernsey, Glendo, Alcova.
One of them they were supposed to be draining down or something.
Well, it can't be Alcova. That one's got to stay at a certain rate unless they're going to do repairs to the dam itself.
Yeah, there was something this winter they was talking about. They were going to drain one of them down, but they said they'd be done with it and fill it back up in
They're
time before
fixing a
spring.
dam.
Yeah.
That's probably Glendo.
So they had,
Because Glendo was severe, you know. You know how you drive on I-25 going north towards Casper?
Oh, yeah.
You usually see the lakes right there.
Yeah.
We went by there one day and
It
could
was
not
gone.
see the lake at all. Oh, wow.
they had no moisture.
Nothing crazy going on there? I gotta go work there tomorrow, so.
No.
Where's that at?
The Cortez Dam. Only been there one other time. I got lost and it email up over there. I was like, that was kinda cool.
It is cool. You see a lot of big sheep over there.
Oh man, that is steep country. All of it.
Last time we were over there, we couldn't get down the other side.
I was wondering if it's even open this side right
Yeah.
now. Did you get all the way through?
We got clear over the top, all the way to almost to the bottom on the other side. And
Is it?
boom, it was done.
That was it.
There was probably
All right, it is 6 p.m., so let's go ahead and call this meeting to order, and please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Lynn, will you conduct roll call, please?
Yes. Madam Mayor Jacqueline Wells,
Here.
Vice Mayor Darrell Garner,
Here?
Councilmember Derek Elliott,
here.
Councilmember Tanya Lumen, Councilmember Terry Patterson,
Here.
Councilmember Steve Sanger, Councilmember Bruce Seeloff.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, moving down to the approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion? Councilmember Patterson?
I'll make a motion that we accept the agenda as written.
Second.
All right, the motion's been made and seconded to approve the April 7th, 2025 Special City Council meeting agenda. Any discussion? Hey, Lynn, will you do voice voting, please?
Yes. Okay. Madam Mayor Wells,
Yay.
Vice Mayor Garner,
Yay.
Councilmember Elliott,
Yay.
Councilmember Patterson,
Yay.
Councilmember Seeloff.
Yay.
Thank you. Motion passes with 5 yeas.
All right, moving down to new business, and that's the discussion of the preliminary fiscal year 2026 budget. And I will pass it on to City Manager Tom Sarvey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, and Honorable Council. It's honored to be here in front of you tonight. Tonight is our second session on the budget, our second out of 3 tonight. So what I would like to discuss a little bit tonight is the status, just kind of where we're at. I have a couple schedules that will help you to understand where we are currently at. And then tonight, this is a little bit different than what we have done in the past. we will go over the departmental budgets just at a high level, and then I will have the department heads come up and you'll be able to hear from them as to what is in their budget, and then you'll have an opportunity to speak with them, to ask them questions, and just to get a better idea of what is in the departmental budgets. So I printed this out today, and after I did, I realized I forgot to put page numbers on it, so I apologize. We'll be doing a lot of this page and that page behind this one and in front of this one, but anyway, if you just turn the pages with me past our logo, on the third page, again, I just want to remind the community watching that we keep our vision, mission, culture statement at the forefront of our minds when we discuss the budget, knowing that this is taxpayer money that we are allocating, appropriating tonight. And so as we do so, we definitely keep the community and the importance of these funds in mind. If you flip back a couple pages, you'll come to one that is titled Budget Reconciliation. And like I said, I'm sorry I did not put page numbers, but it's the one up on the screen here. This will be our scorecard, if you will, as we go throughout the budget. So all of the general fund departments are listed on the left, and then their operating budget ask is the first column. Okay, and we will go through about half of these tonight with the department heads, but that is the operating budget that they've asked for on our status. From the past 2 years, we have frozen positions within our budget. So the last 2 years, in order to balance the budget, we looked for empty positions, vacated positions that were open, and we froze those, taking the budgeted amount for that year out so that we could balance the budget. So those positions still exist, we just put a hiring freeze on those for the time being. And all of those positions are in that second column that is called frozen positions. We froze 3 different police officer positions. We froze the downtown development assistance position, and we froze a parks technician that was open at the time. So within our current budget, you'll see that adds up to $438,000 in frozen positions that we froze years past so that we could balance the budget. Okay, so obviously when we add these back in, we are adding more expenditures than we have revenue by adding these back in. So we will either have to freeze these again or find other cuts within the budget that would bring us back into budget. This year we have about 4 new positions that we would like to propose to council throughout the organization. When we restructure and when services change, there's always a need for new positions within the organization. and we will go through those with you as we touch on the different departments in there. And then we have the current year capital asks that I always like to separate those from the operating budget. So we have currently $777,000 in capital asks, and then if you add all those across, where we stand budget-wise right now is $13,258,000 that we are looking at in potential expenditures. By the end of the day, we need to get that equal with our revenues, and our revenues currently sit at 12.8 million. So as you can see, there's about $500,000 that we are over that. So anyway, as we go through these budgets, make adjustments, I will update this each time, get this back out to you so that you'll know exactly where we stand. On the next page, I wanted you to see the current year asks compared to last year's asks. So if you look at the middle column, which is fiscal year 2025, you will see the revenues of 12.4 million. And then if you go down to the expenditures, you'll see 12.4 million. That zero there means that we were in balance for last year's budget. For fiscal year 2026, we have found some additional revenues, $108,000 through recreation, $236,000 we expect to receive through sales tax, through the state, through the horse racing, through all those things that increased that we went over at the last work session. You can see our current expenditures for fiscal year 2026, and you can see after the operating, without the frozen positions and without the capital and the new positions, we have a surplus of $1 million and 5,000. When you subtract from that the frozen positions that we had talked about, the new positions that we propose on that page, the capital from that, and then we also have some fire capital that was not within the budget, and then we also have a couple other items that we noticed capital didn't make it. But when you take those away from the $1 million, that leaves a $562,000 deficit. Our capital spending goal is 1.5 million, which is our depreciation expense each year. So just to keep pace with depreciation is 599. And then we currently do not have a streets program to do the mill and overlay of streets throughout town in need. And we estimate that annual expense at $1 million. So you can see if we take all of that into account, we have a deficit of about 2.1 million in there. And then just for your information, the variances in there, I went through the department budgets to see what changed between one year and the next year, and I just put in a few comments over there. We will go through those departments in depth so that you'll have a much better understanding of those items that are off to the right there. All right, on the next page, I wanted council to be able to see here by object code where we spend our money, if it's on salaries, benefits, supplies, the different areas that we have. So the next page entitled General Fund Budget by Object Code, you can see there that our largest expense by far is our salaries that we pay, at about 6.2 million. The associated benefits with that is 2.9 million. So you can see we have about 9.1 million between salaries and benefits. The next category is purchase services at about 2.5, 2.6 million. Supplies at 769,000, and then the current capital for a total budget of 13.2 million. So if we were to cut supplies by 10%, we could go here to see how much that amount would be. The next page is just a graph of all of that so that you could see it in graph form. The department budgets within the general fund. So you can see that police administration is our largest department, followed by our streets and our fire department at 8%. But you can see the whole makeup of the general fund in this graph. And then the next page again is the general fund budget by object code. So you can see between the salaries and the benefits make up about 70% of our overall budget, followed by purchase services. The next page, I wanted you to see the what we call FTEs. It's the full-time equivalents. So this is the number of employees that we use within the different departments. So just starting from the top there, the city manager's office has 3 employees, city attorney 2 as you go down in there, so that you can see where the number count, head count that exists between the different departments. Total general government, we have 77.5 employees, and under recreation we have 12.5, for a total general fund of just under 93 employees. At Thursday's night's meeting, I will have the enterprise funds for you with the water, sewer, wastewater at that time. The graph following that page is by our FTEs. You can see citywide in graph form. There again, the police department has about 22% of our staff. The fire department, 11. So you could just see in there essentially the breakout of the total staffing. The graph behind that page is by our budget code. On our audit report that has the 5 categories, here you can see that public safety makes up 45% of our general fund workforce, followed by general government at 22. Our capital requests are on the next page. I do know that there are 2 or 3 items that are not listed here that should be. Under the community development, there's a vehicle and a plotter printer that needs to be added. And then there was one other item that I know we'll hit, but that'll come in right at about $1 million worth of capital requests. The big request that we need to discuss in depth, and we can as we hit the fire department, is the replacement of fire engine 2. A fire engine today goes for about $1.1 million. And there again, we really haven't saved over the years for these types of purchases. And so when we hit here, we usually have to look for those funds wherever we can to be able to purchase that. But that is the big ask for the fire department, is a fire engine. So with that, that's the general items tonight to just kind of set the stage for where we are headed. The rest of this report is going to be by department. So what I will do is go through the department quickly with you, and then, like I said, we'll have the department heads come up, and then they can add their color to it, and then you will have an opportunity as council to be able to ask whatever questions that you would want of them. So the first 6 departments that we will touch on tonight are the ones that I oversee, so you'll be stuck with me on these, I guess, as we go through before we get to living and community development. The first department to touch on is the city council budget, which is the budget of the council members. So if you look at the page that's on the screen, you can see we have 7 council members, and the salaries and wages paid to council adds up to $66,000.
Why was the actual 68,538 in 24?
24 is when we had the change, I believe, in mayor. I wonder if that had something
Even 25 was 43.
to do with
Well,
that,
we did-
because that is an odd amount.
25,
I'm just curious.
council.
This year's is an odd amount too.
Is it?
Yeah, it's 43,961. I can look into that, because
It's just
I
weird.
think it should add up to 66 in the end. It's just divided out over 26 pay periods.
Oh, I see,
So
okay.
it
That
takes
makes
the
sense.
annual amount and divides it by 26, and that's what you get. So it won't be an even amount each month,
Yeah,
but at the end of the year, it should have been close.
just thought that was weird.
Yeah. Okay, so each of the departments will have a staffing summary, it'll have a budget summary, and it'll have a graph down below showing the components. And then the second page will always be by account that we have. So when you get to the city council budget, you will see all of the accounts that we budgeted for are right there with the proposed for 26. You'll see the actual through the end of February, the budget for 25, and the actual for 24. And so city council budget, we put in $10,000 for travel and training, which is council travel to WAM and COG and all those other events that council attends. And dues and publications, $13,800 is the annual dues that are paid to WAM, COG, and all of those, with a $500 miscellaneous. And so at the end, when you add those up, it's about 98,246, which is about a 0.47% increase from the budget last year. Is there any questions on the city council budget?
On the miscellaneous materials and supplies, how much is that as paper?
All of the paper comes through other budgets. This would only be like the food for council meetings, you know, if we were to purchase food or other supplies. You can see we've only spent $82 to
Yeah.
date, so it's not like it's a large expense.
Oh, okay.
But the,
So it's like if we have COG for a meeting or Sinclair for a meeting, it's providing food and stuff for them.
Providing food for
Okay,
that.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
Thanks.
the paper budget is under the city manager budget. Like I said, this was intended to be a 3-page report tonight. And you can see what it turned into, so. Okay, the next department is the city manager office. Okay, we operate with 3 different positions within the city manager's office: the city manager, community relations director, and the city clerk. So you can see those total salaries. And then on the second page, you can see the contractual services that we have. The consultant contracts, we are looking for a strategic planning software, you know, that we can use. Travel training is for staff to attend WAM and all the other conferences. Strategic plan projects to date have been mostly with the FEMA flood zone consulting through Engineering Associates, which we believe will continue. We have some advertisements that we pay for through the newspaper. And then you can see down below the supplies, office supplies, equipment, and vehicle operation is fuel for vehicles that you will see throughout the budget. So there is about a 7% increase overall within the city manager budget. You can see that that is almost all in the salary category. On each of the departments, I will have some notes on the back page in there that you could always look through. One of the items that it is not in here that we have not asked for but is on the horizon for the city manager office is to be able to digitize all the ordinance materials. We believe that's about $150,000 for the equipment, software, and to get that digitized. Is there any questions on the city manager's office? Okay, municipal court is the third department. We have we propose a couple changes here. Under the staffing summary, we have always operated for the last few years with a deputy clerk of court, which is an assistance to the clerk of court. The individual retired, and we felt that that would be an area that we can save some money there to cut back on. One of the issues that we will have to watch there is to give the clerk of court ample backup when they're out on vacation or those types of things. We'll have to make sure that we are prepared for that by having somebody else trained if we do not fill that position.
For the court clerk, is she planning to retire soon? Is that
Yes.
something?
Yes, she is. And so the budgeted salary in here is actually back to like a step one on the salary schedule, where the current person's been with the city 30-plus years. So there is going to be a sizable decrease in those salaries for, for that position. But yes, we are looking at the end of June to have that individual retire.
So, the end of this June, have we even advertised for this?
Yes, we have.
Okay,
We have. I've received a letter, resignation letter from that individual.
okay.
So we have interviewed for that position so that they'll have ample time to train.
Okay, thank you.
In fact, they should start real soon,
Good.
tomorrow, in fact.
Tomorrow, well, there you
How's
go.
that for timing?
That's soon enough?
Good job.
Yep. So you will see about a 17.63% decrease in costs of the municipal court. One of the ideas here as well is under the contractual services, we have a bond account expenses. Those are bank fees that the bank charges us when somebody posts bond into that account. That there are banking fees associated with that if they use a card. We are looking for a way to be able to pass those fees on to the individuals with that, since the fee is a result of their actions to use a card on that. So we are looking at that. Consultant contracts is the software that they use. Interestingly enough, that had been charged against revenue in the past, and I don't know why we hadn't caught that. It should be an expenditure. So you can see the actual zero. We will have to go reclassify that. Jailing expenses is our cost that we pay to the sheriff over at the county jail. Court and legal fees is the fees for outside counsel and all the different things that we use within the court. And then to round that out would just be supplies, which is basically office supplies and different items needed to maintain the office. Is there any questions? Municipal court. On the next page, this is kind of an interesting fact here to read at the bottom there. If you take all of the revenue that the court generates, which includes police citations and all of the revenue that they have, the revenue does not cover the actual court costs that we have. So it actually costs more to run the court than what we bring in and all of the fees associated with that. We would like to see that at least a break even if we could.
It has gone down though, substantially.
It has, and our budget for this year has the reduced salaries in it, which brings us closer to that break-even point.
The county, if you use a card over anything with the county, they add a fee right onto it. It's somehow separate. They charge two. They charge for what you charge, plus they have the extra fee they charge on there.
That's true.
separate to pay for the cart.
Yep, for the
So
card.
That's something we really need to look into.
Yeah, and that's what we're gonna look into, is passing those on. If we pass those on, that will bring this to a break-even point.
Would that be citywide for all credit card
Yes,
charges?
we want that for all credit card fees. We just don't have the technology currently with our accounting system to sync those together, but as we upgrade, we will definitely be able to pass that on. All right. Information technology. We have made some changes to this, as you could see from years past. 3-4 years ago, the decision was made to charge all software purchases throughout the city to IT. I feel that those costs should be associated with the different departments so that we know more as to what the department's operating costs are. So we have moved the software and all those things to the different departments. So the only contractual service that we have is our consulting fees through 307 Technologies. And that's about $8,200 a month that we pay. So that comes out to about $105,000. A couple years ago, we had a IT manager on site, and once that individual resigned his position, we went with a consulting firm. So you will see salaries and benefits are zero. The IT specialist staffing summary has been zero for the last 3 years. We do budget $30,000 for tech supplies that we have there within the tech department, and a majority of our servers in our server room are way past end of life. And when I say way past end of life, we're talking 10, 15 years past end of life on a device that has maybe a 7 to 10 year life. And we're like 10 to 15 years past that. So we have budgeted in there $50,000 so that we can start to do some of those replacements.
We can hear it downstairs.
Yes, if that goes, then I think we go.
Yeah.
So we hope every day that holds out. All right, is there any questions on the IT portion? The next department is Human Resources. We do have a change here. In fiscal year 2024, we had 3/4 of a position of a human resource manager. The reason it is 3/4 is the other 25% was allocated to the enterprise funds. So we had a full position, it's just that 75% of that position was charged to this department, and the other 25% went to the water, sewer, landfill, recycling. When that past manager resigned, we did not hire, we froze that position essentially, and then about a month ago we unfroze that position. And we have a candidate coming on site Friday of this week. If you would like to meet this individual coming up from Texas, from out of state. We do have a human resource specialist that is currently operating within that department, which would bring that total to 2. So our salaries have increased significantly with the addition of a HR manager. On the next page, you'll be able to see the makeup of the contractual services. You can see we have unemployment insurance, travel training, drug, alcohol screening, personnel testing, medical. You can see all of those different items, employee appreciation that we pay on behalf of our workforce. The one item in here that I left in here, even though it has a zero balance, is the education reimbursement. Years ago, we would offer reimbursement on college classes or other types of education for employees as long as it correlated to their job. We would have them pay their tuition, show us successful completion, and then we would reimburse that cost to them. Staff feels that that is a very important item because that's how our staff will better themselves. With that, we have that zero because we just haven't had the funds the last couple of years to put towards that. So if we could, I'd just keep that in mind as something that, you know, if we could reinstate.
Have we had anyone come forward wanting to participate in this?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
Several, in
Okay.
fact, that have.
So that's good.
Yeah.
Let's get it going.
Is the pursuing of those additional classes to get a higher degree also a part or will be a part of their evaluation to positively move them up on the pay scale as well?
Most of those items that help them with the pay scale are ones that the city pays for anyway. Certifications and those types of things, we would help them so that they can advance. These items would be more like college tuition or, or equivalent trade schools or items like that, where, that are not required, I guess, by job descriptions.
Okay.
Yeah, but like I said, we feel that bettering ourselves is such a good thing in here that we, like I said, we would like to support that. Okay, and then you can see my notes on the next page.
I have a question, Tom.
Yes.
Is the process to get people background checked faster than it was?
It has improved, but it isn't where we want it quite yet.
Have we looked into other options? Because there is a lot of different ones.
We have that on our list for other options.
So that might be a good thing for the HR director to look
Yes,
into.
that will be one of the things that will be assigned early on. Okay, finance department, sorry.
Yeah. On the, the salary pay, you were talking about the 0.25 or the 25% that was going to enterprise. That's not going to go to enterprise anymore?
It can. We just added it for now into this department, but yes, they do HR for all those employees.
Okay.
So I will mark that.
Well, my understanding was by letting enterprise help pay for that, is that frees up funds in the general fund. So
It does.
that helps with the streets, projects, those type of things.
It does.
Alleviating that pain. So,
Yep.
I'm of the opinion if anywhere we can have enterprise funds help, you know, if a position directly affects that enterprise in any type of way, if we can get a percentage kicked back from the enterprise to it, I think that's our best bet, especially when it comes to the general fund.
We have moved a couple positions from the general fund to the enterprise fund
Okay.
within here that we will show you here soon.
Okay.
Just for that reason, the work they do is associated with the enterprise funds. But we, for some reason, we've had those within the general fund in the past.
Okay, thank you.
Also, we have to be careful to keep that balance, that we don't, yes, they're a vital part of that enterprise funds, but I don't want to take too much out of that, because
True.
that enterprise fund does have a main goal of
It has a
water,
purpose.
sewer.
That's
Yeah.
right. We don't want to misuse the water fees paid for,
Right.
for those things. All right, the finance department, we've got a couple proposed changes in the staffing here. One of the things that we would like to add as a new position to the city is a purchasing agent. We feel right now that our purchasing process and the supply chain throughout the city is haphazard at best. And we think organization to that, we can seek discounts, we could have the organization as to how it is purchased, received in, and distributed out. So we have put in for council's approval, I guess, for that. The other change is under accounting clerk 1, we've always had a utilities clerk in the finance office whose job is the water billing, sewer billing, landfill billing, and all of that. It's been 100% within those funds, but we've always picked that up within the general fund because they were housed within the finance office so that they could handle the front desk, customer service and things. We would like to move that individual physically to Public Works so that they will be able to access the data there and to be able to have more discussion with the staff at Public Works. And we feel that if they are on site there, you could have that discussion better than being here. Several times I've received information on trends that was really good information, so I would get it in and send it over, but we don't know if it was ever discussed at Public Works, received, and like I said, having this individual there we think would be a lot better, facilitate those discussions. So what we've proposed here is to reduce the accounting clerk 1 by 1, move it to the enterprise funds, and then add to here a purchasing agent, which would be a new position. Overall, that would keep the salaries within about 4% of where they were. It would be a slight increase. And we have 2 positions that are open, the finance director and the purchasing agent. We always budget at the family benefit level for health insurance because we don't know what they will enroll in. If they are single or parent with child or with spouse, the health insurance could be cut in half of our premium. But like I said, we don't hire based upon that at all. We hire based upon abilities, so we always budget the higher number. And then contractual services increased in there, and I believe that's the audit. Changing auditors, we increased that audit fee slightly. So that is the finance department. Any questions in finance? Okay, now we're going to go on to the community development department, so I'll invite Lou up. And I will give you just a brief overview, and then I will let Mr. Lascano give his sales pitch as to what's in here, and then you can feel free to ask him. So under the CATS bus, we have a driver that's a 3/4 position. So instead of 40 hours a week, he would work 30 hours a week. And the only other thing in there is just the vehicle operation, $7,800 for fuel. We have increased the rate per ride from 50 cents to $2 in fiscal year 2025. And if you look at the back page, there's a small profit and loss statement. So we budgeted this year for revenues to cover right at 10% of the expenditure cost. Anything you want to add?
Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, one thing that we're coming down the pike, I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, but I know there's been talk of retirement of our current driver. We have an issue if he does go on vacation to where we're fortunate enough to have a person that has a passenger endorsement that works for Cody now. He's our mechanic. Like I said, I don't think it's going to happen this year, but I know there's talk, and we'll have to start looking at that on the CATS bus side. I think with the raise on the fee for the bus rides, I think that's helped out quite a bit with our try to offset the balance on it a little bit, where we're coming out a little better off on the even side. So that the CATS bus is pretty much run on its own. We don't have any issues with that.
Does it seem like we have lost anyone riding because of the increase, or we still seem like we're all the same amount, approximately the same amount of people?
We're still on the same level with the amount of people. Summertime, the bikers come through.
Yeah.
So it does pick up on that time of the year, but it's been steady, and that's one thing about it. I think with the bus and having the ADA ramp on the back side of that, I think that's helped out with our less fortunate citizens.
Okay, under the community development department, we have changes here within our staffing summary that I want to touch on really quick. So in fiscal year 2025, our community development director and the administrative assistant split their time for overseeing the landfill and the recycle center, as well as central garage building maintenance. They all reported to the community development director. So we have restructured those departments now so that they all report to the Public Works Department, and this was done so that we can focus more on actual projects through community development. Where in the past, with only 50% of his time allocated there, we've got a lot of community projects that we want to do, strategic planning and all these different things. So we, like I said, moved all those to Public Works so that our community development director can go full-time within the community development office, as well as the administrative assistant. Okay, so they are now allocated full-time community development. With all these projects that we have, we felt that the addition of a community development assistant to that office would be substantial in that we would get somebody that could write reports and take notes and all those different things throughout all the strategy meetings. So that would free up our director to hold those meetings, assign those reports to a staff so that we could keep up on the administrative side of all the projects. So the community development assistant is one of those positions that we would ask council to consider adding this year. And that would bring the full-time positions up to 3 in there, where it has been running at 1. Anything you want to add to that, Lou, or any of the other expenditures?
Yeah, I do want to add, Vice Mayor and Mayor, Council. With the community development side, with planning and zoning and Board of Adjustments, more planning and zoning would deal a lot with the state statutes. I think if we had an administrative assistant that had type legal background per se, which would be used on our side, and I think legal was going to talk about that as well. We've had 2 instances where we had to hire outside legal, and I think if we had somebody to do the legwork for the meetings that we do have, I think it would be beneficial for the city.
So just to, so I understand you correctly, you're wanting that to be a part of the administrative secretary or part of the community development assistant to have that legal background? Or are you talking about a strictly legal position that we haven't got to yet?
With the Councilmember, with the legal side of it, I think if we had, if we could go to legal for help in doing research for our cases that we do have come up, I think that would be beneficial, but definitely an administrative assistant for community development itself. I think we'd have, we could cross with the legal and with the administrative assistant that I would have if it's granted. There just seems like there's a lot of little touchy subjects that do come up, and especially if we go to an instance where we do have to hire outside. We could work with the attorney to try and get the time possibly split if that's what needed to be done. But with the administrative assistant, I think with what we've got going now, now that I've jumped into this both feet now, compliments of my supervisor here. I mean, we're staying busy. Actually, I'm staying busy up there, and I do push stuff off on our administrative assistant that we have now. But she's constantly taking phone calls, issuing permits, scheduling inspections. So yes, that would be a huge help for us on our side.
So that'd be something to look at when you're hiring a community development assistant, correct? Is you're looking for maybe some legal background?
That would be that position that we would look for, legal background, possibly to split time with the attorney's office.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we feel, as staff, we feel that one of the things really lacking has been our community development. Looking at opportunities, looking at ways to develop our community, and we just think that with this restructuring, that we are able now to look at all of these items that can help. I've gone on several rides with council people where there are items within our community that need to be looked at. Now we will have the staff through an office that can strategize on how to accomplish those, besides me coming back to my office, talking to some people, and it just kind of dissipates. I think now we'll have that staffing behind that support that we can actually accomplish these things. And I think there are wonderful things in the future for us, so.
Okay.
Okay, the next department is the building code enforcement. Here again, we are in the process of restructuring departments. One of those areas that will be restructured by June for sure will be the moving of the code enforcement officer from the police department to community development. We believe that position, coupled with the building official, will help us to be able to gather data that would be beneficial to the community development director and that will help us with our enforcement issues. We'll be able to see the community where the issues are, strategize on the enforcement, where right now they are separate departments, and we think working together on that would really help us to see what we're up against, where the issues are, so that we can improve the enforcement. One thing in here is that the expenditures for both of these positions usually ended up with their parent department. So code enforcement, a lot of the expenditures ended up under the police department instead of within its own department, and the building official would end up under the fire department when that was the report. So you will see a decrease here in the overall, but you will see compared to the actual that they're a lot higher, and that's because we are breaking those out, putting them in this department. Anything on that?
So, for code enforcement, I know there's nothing here for technology, but is there out there any programs that would help him plot, like the problem areas, create a report? I mean, it might be something to look into to help gather that information. We are in the 21st century.
We would like that on our GIS as a layer within our GIS system, so that we can see throughout town who is not in compliance, and consistency of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that we can be able to, like I said, devise enforcement strategies. But yes, we will look for technology with that.
Other concern I would have without him being part of the police department is Is his authority going to be respected? And I get it's depending on the people, but would he, I'm assuming he would have the police department's backing if there are any problems.
Yes, for sure.
We have a little window. It's 7:02. We take a break till 7:10.
Sure.
Great. We will take an 8-minute break.
We're just going through this tonight, right?
Yeah, just this
Okay.
packet tonight. We'll have another one.
Oh, yeah, I know. They just keep coming, man.
I'll make sure not to issue.
So on the general fund, did I understand you in the beginning right? We're looking at, we have to cut 435,000 in order to be balanced. That
Yes.
kind of,
And that is without like the streets or.
without the streets or depreciation
or,
fund,
yeah,
right?
the capital, summing up capital. We would have to cut right at that.
How much did the Wyoming decision on property tax affect this?
There was not a sunset put on that, on it, so it's like permanent. Those
But if we
cuts.
would have gotten that, would have balanced us?
No,
or been a
that's
lot
only
closer?
like 100,000 for us, 120,000. It would have brought us
It
to
would have
like,
been a little closer, but it didn't,
300,000.
wouldn't have filled the gap, correct?
correct.
Okay.
all of you be as fast as
I'm gonna say your personal property tax ain't gonna come down much. By the time everything's cut and dried, it ain't gonna amount to nothing. So,
Don't you love talking about money?
20 seconds less.
well, this subject right here is the one that gets me the most, the code enforcement, but I don't. I'm gonna leave it for a little while, because I gotta do some thinking on it.
It's like, how can you?
I don't think they do their job.
You what?
I don't think they do their job. Sufficient, let's put it that way.
Yes. You notice I didn't sit in the Chiefs of the day.
Did you see that? Got your capital.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
Bruce would need to refill.
Is this Chief Ward's? No.
Are you out and about too?
It just doesn't have tomorrow night. It's not 30.
I don't know which is worse. That sounds terrible, huh? Yeah.
Or wisdom teeth?
Yeah.
I think I'd rather have my wisdom teeth pulled.
Kind of the thought that went through my mind. Wow, okay.
Poor guy.
I had mine done, I had all 4 of them done.
Yeah.
And I was out 2 days and everything else was good. So,
I think it depends on the person.
but I was in high school.
Yeah, I scheduled Logan's for this summer. Get his done before he leaves my
I think
nest.
the worst surgery I ever had was rotator
You have a
cuff.
senior this year?
He'll be a senior next year.
Oh, next year. He'll be a senior. You got one more year of childish angst.
You got one a
before
senior and
Well,
one
I
a
have
junior?
lots of angst, but what?
You got one a senior and one a junior?
I'll have, right now I have a junior, a freshman, and a 7th grader. All boys.
Wait till that 7th grader graduates. That was the hardest thing for me.
It's
Knowing that he
hard.
was going off to college.
The oldest is gonna,
It was
my
great for
heart.
a while. For about the first 6 months of him being in college, he would come home quite often. Of course, he was just that one, right? And after that, it's like, you coming home this weekend? No, I've got some stuff going on. No, I got some stuff going on.
Yeah.
And then when he graduated college and moved to Las Vegas, I'm sitting there going, oh man, that hit me right between the eyes. So
way far away. That's tough when they do that.
he had to do what he had to do. Actually, it was all right. We'd go out there, he'd come out here.
Ugh,
I'm not a gambler, so it didn't matter much.
I'm
so.
not ready for any of that.
One child at a time.
Oh, my oldest is,
When it's your only child, then that's when it hits hard.
Yeah. Then it's not hard. All your eggs in one basket.
I think we're ready now, Tom.
Yeah.
We didn't need the full 8 minutes.
Good.
You need a refill.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Just yell at me, okay?
The next department that we'll look into is the fire department. Staffing wise, the only change that we would like to maintain here is the 10 staff members, which is without a battalion chief. So we currently have 9 captains or engineers and 1 chief for a total of 10. So we have not replaced the battalion chief as of yet. The increase in the salaries to 3.98% was a result of the salary study that we did. And I will let Chief Robinson talk about his operating budget, and then I'll also have him touch on the fire engine replacement as well.
Madam Mayor and Council, my $8 worth, a lot of my stuff is geared towards maintaining and keeping the equipment that we have operational, usable, those kind of things. There's a fair amount of it that is required by NFPA, annual service maintenance that has to be done, and testing, those kinds of things. So that's quite a bit of what's in there. Like under the supplies, those kind of things, there's medical, that's to maintain. All medical equipment has an expiration date, those kind of things, so we have to maintain. Those we have to keep up on all the, every call we go on, we use gloves every time, we have certain things like that we're using all the time, those kind of things. So that's a lot of what that is. Those types of things. What else you need me to talk about there?
Would you talk a little bit about the ambulance, just the service?
So, yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. So we are, the hospital staff's the first and the second out ambulance. First out crew is always in the ER, second out crew is their kind of off-duty crew, and they flip back and forth, those things. We cover a third out ambulance, so every time that there's already 2 ambulances out, we're the next one up. In 2024, we were out, if I remember right, 20 or 24 times, I can't remember the exact number, that we had that out. Whether that was a scene call or whether that was, they were requesting us for a transfer, those kind of things. A lot of times they'll request for us for a transfer if their crews have been on the clock or on the road quite a bit, if they've had back-to-back things happen, those kinds of things. We've taken 3 of those in the last 10 days for them as well. So that's staying somewhat about an equal par for this year already what we were last year. I don't have all those numbers in front of me, but it's amazing how often we are the next out ambulance. Within the week, we've been that first out, next call ambulance a couple of times, those kinds of things. So With that, we do have an MOU with the hospital where we are billing them for those out-of-town runs and those kinds of things. We have that's all set up in our fee schedule with them, those type of things. They actually bill the patient, they take care of all of that headache and billing part of it, and then we have just a flat rate that we charge to them for that service that we're providing them.
Do you feel like that's still an adequate rate?
It's only been, remember last time, it's only been,
It's
it's
been
been
like
within a year or so that
Okay.
we updated those numbers.
Okay.
Adequate, that's a relative term.
Yes.
You know, we charge $10,000 a run, we might be close, but no. We're nowhere near that, I'm joking here, but we are at least covering most of our costs now with those kind of things. Like I said, I don't have all that number in front of me, but that is something I am tracking of those kind of things, so, yes.
So I'm a bit confused because on this sheet, capital, new, 0. Then we have capital requests.
Yes.
So why wasn't it added in, or?
That's because I forgot to put it onto the back sheet. So by the time that I had printed this out, I realized that I had forgot to get that on. So we just added that onto the front. So
Okay,
the sheets that you see in the back are really meant to be operating, not the capital.
okay.
But like I said, I have some capital in there, and it is backed off that first schedule that we looked at to come up with the operating costs.
Chief Robinson, a few years ago, the SCBA stuff was way behind. And I know we caught you guys back up. Are we continuously keeping that up to date now?
So all of our packs are currently new.
Yeah.
Basically, we put them in service
2
2 or
years
3
ago.
months ago. So it took us time, and we had them just kind of sitting and waiting.
Okay.
So we have enough to operate now. You'll see some on the capital list. We're looking for several more if we can get them. Part of them, we want a few of them they're termed industrial rather than fire. Basically, we can wear them under our level A and our hazmat suits. They don't have quite as many whistles and bells that we have to worry about going on. Same exact manufacturer, same everything. They just don't have quite as much on them. And that's basically what we're looking for there, is to kind of start adding to that side of the house a little bit. With that, like on my capital, if you can look at that, there's a couple of RIP packs. Those are similar type devices that they're actually in a bag that we would take in and use for rescue, either on a downed firefighter or a person that was trapped in their house, those kind of things. All of the bottles and everything we have in those are some of the old system. They're still in date. We still got a little bit of time on those, but we'd like to get those updated. Same manufacturer as what we currently have, those type of things. So that's part of that. Just ask. We're just trying to keep up on equipment.
So if we purchase some of that stuff for future, does the date start from the time we purchase it or from the time we put it in service?
Most all of the dates are from date of manufacturer.
You bet.
Yeah, most of those air bottles have about a 15-year life on them and those kind of things. So that's kind of what we're looking at.
How many are we talking about?
As many as I can get, to be honest with you, Terry. I need.
I've been out of it for a while,
Yeah,
so I don't know how much they cost now, so.
The air packs themselves, the SCBA's, are $7,000 to $8,000 a piece. So they're very spendy. If I could get 6 of those, that would be a great number. I don't remember what exactly I based that off of, 4 to 6. That way, the RIP packs, that would give me enough for the 4 that I have currently to replace those. And then spare bottles, that would give me enough to replace. I think there's 8 bottles currently that I'm using that would replace those.
Are these all 1 hour bottles? Do you want?
That's a variety. All of the packs it would be, and there's really not a whole lot of difference between the 45-minute and the 1 hour bottles. We say 45-minute, 1 hour, that they rate them by hour or by minute size. It all depends on how fast you're breathing, how hard you're working, how much air you use out of them. So it's just a little bit bigger capacity. We like those in our hazmat suits, those kind of things. It's a little more time downrange, that kind of stuff.
So would this be something that we'd be better off to look at purchasing some this year, next year purchasing some more, instead of buying all of them at one time?
So if I could get what I'm asking for on my capital this year, I can put it into service right now. I would like to ask for maybe this much again next year to kind of keep ahead of stuff, so.
No, we ain't outdated, is all I'm looking at.
Yeah, like I say, most of our stuff we've been able to sunset, put it aside. In fact, a lot of it was donated.
They were like 8 years outdated the last time, right?
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
not quite that, they weren't quite that far out of date.
That's
The
good.
the products themselves were to the point where the manufacturer said we're not doing anything more with them, and so finding parts or getting service was becoming extremely difficult. The air bottles themselves just strictly had a time limit on them, and they had run out of time.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Go, Vice Mayor.
In conversations we've had, Tom, you've mentioned other towns our size or bigger utilize a volunteer fire department. I'm just curious why those communities versus our community uses a volunteer versus a full-time or fully staffed, or if
Combination department.
what's that?
It's a combination department. Paid staff and volunteers both.
That's what we run. We run both.
Well, we have 9 paid firefighters plus the chief for 10. Most communities run on a volunteer. Until I don't know what size, if there's a magic population size.
That's what I was curious. Is there a key factor that says, you've got structures this big, or you've got, maybe it's the railroad goes through and that's what?
and so,
Yeah.
so Madam Mayor and Vice Mayor, part of the, behind that question, I guess is what I'm getting at, is the way, or traditionally the way fire service has been provided in that community over a long period of time. So like the city of Lander is mostly a volunteer department. They're actually technically a combination. They have some people that are doing full-time stuff, those kind of things. They've been that way pretty much the existence of the city, or for, a lot of years, those kind of things. Where we here in Rawlins have not. We have been traditionally since at least the early 60s, if not even prior to that, a combination department where we had full-time career guys that were doing stuff, those kind of things. And so we've kind of just evolved that way. It's where we are. So, I know that we can compare, different cities of the same size, some of those kind of things, but there's a lot of just kind of the way we've been brought up and the way we've always done things that has kind of set where we're at, so.
Well, don't it put us in a different insurance class for the people and everything else be determining with what we got and everything? There's something about.
So, yes, I think I can answer that question. So you're talking about our ISO rating, or that varies from community to community. I got a phone call last week and asked what we were, and then they wanted to know what the fire district was, and I'm like, I have no idea what they were. Give them a phone number to call to ask that question. So yes, with us having career employees and those kinds of things, that helps us achieve that lower level. We're currently a 3. We are actually not very far off of a 2. Part of that is one of those time and money things where if we had a couple of more career guys, when we could actually get a few more points that way, those kind of things, it's actually fairly close that we're reaching a 2, that part of it. So where if we were all volunteer, I don't know what that number would look like.
So how was it determined, have 4 fire engineers, or 2 fire engineer 1? I mean, are these the set numbers?
Okay.
And how was that determined?
Okay, so all of that is determined. I see that's what Patterson over laughing. So all of this is determined by our civil service rules. So
Okay.
it is all laid out in there that we will have a chief. The battalion chief position we talked about is currently just kind of in limbo. We have 3 captains, and then we have 3 senior engineers and 3 junior engineers, or 3 and 6 in those positions. They're allocated there. So that, yeah, they're set in their positions, and
Okay,
when we have 3 captains, we can't promote until someone of them moves on.
all right, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Do we want to
Chief
talk about
Robinson.
that engine replacement?
On the fire engine, that's the 1.1 million. On that, if we were to look at purchasing a fire engine, is it 48 months?
So, yeah, I have that right here. So, if you'd like, I can explain that. So, right now, if we were to order an engine today, we have several options. If we ordered what is called a full custom build, which is we spec the truck out how we want it, the color we want it to have this size of doors and these compartments and all this kind of, pretty much what we've done with all of our trucks to a point. We are looking at 32 to 34 months out right now. If we ordered it today, we're looking almost 3 years before that truck arrives here. And that's industry standard. If we went with the really fancy, I mean, we wanted to hear all the whistles and bells, those kind of things, we could be up to 48 months out on that truck for delivery. If we went with a stock truck or a truck that's already in process, we can cut that time down, but we're stuck to whatever is already started to build, those kind of things.
So is the 1.1 just 1 year's worth of that total cost?
No, that would be the total
That's
cost
the
of that engine.
total
Yes.
cost, okay.
Yeah, so we could,
Okay.
ideally, I guess, spread that out. We could
Yeah,
time
over the
it
3
by
years or
time.
whatever
That's-
timeline
That's
we
this
are.
guy's problem, not mine.
Yeah,
That's gonna be my question. Can we put so much a year against it?
Yeah, like
Yes.
32 at that,
E-
whatever.
Even if we ordered, can we put so much a year against it? No.
If we just got the basic stuff that we need and not spec it out, what's that put the price down to?
Price doesn't change.
Oh, it's just,
Yeah, the
No,
price is
those ones.
about that, and that's a ballpark figure, that's what I was told to use for budgeting. You know, so yeah, the price of the truck really doesn't change unless we get real high end. You know, and then obviously it's gonna go up those kinds of things.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, so in my opinion, we might as well get what we want if we're gonna do it, instead of just getting by with something we can make work.
right.
So which one are you asking for?
So my opinion, my personal bid was what they call a program build, which is the one that we get to spec it all out. We get to put our own, get our own drawings, everything, our own truck, and be looking at the 30 to 36 months out.
Is this a fully outfitted one, hoses, fittings, or do we have to?
So all
Do
of
that
the
also.
add-ons, there's some of that in 1.1 would be, some of that would be the dry equipment or the stuff on the truck. Part of that we would have to look at as we spec the truck out, you know, how much of what we currently have on the truck can we move, go over, those kinds of things. If there's specialty equipment we want to put on it, any of those kinds of things. A lot of that type of stuff I'm sitting pretty well on. There's a little bit that I would want specific with the truck. Some fans, you know, lighting and those type of things would be specific to the truck.
Would we have something to trade in?
If they wanted to take it as trade, I would recommend right now that we put the
Auction
truck
it.
up as trade, rather than, so that we,
Okay,
not been too long ago, we just give Saratoga a truck. That's
Yeah.
because we really couldn't sell it. We just kind of stuck with it, those kind of things. And so I personally right now would put on the bid spec that it would be for trade. That way they can take care of that part of the hassle, some of that. They may or may not want it, I don't know. The truck we're looking at trading off is an 89.
oh, it's pretty,
It's actually good shape, it's just old.
Could we ask the other communities if they'd like it before we send it in for trade? And maybe just say, this is what the trade value is, we'll give you a little better deal, or
There's absolutely no reason we couldn't
just,
ask around a little bit, see
Yeah.
if somebody's interested in it. But there again, it's kind of hard to, you know, we're gonna put it there, we're gonna give it to you, but you gotta wait 3 years
Yeah,
before we give it
right.
to you. You know, I don't know how that works, that's kind of
they
weird.
budget like this,
Yeah,
we're gonna
yeah.
have.
Oh,
we're
we
gonna be
wouldn't
wanting
offer
break
it
that
to them
down.
until ours is in and ready to go.
And that's
so-
the hard part, yes, you
Yeah.
know, we kind of, you know, putting bid specs together 3 years down the road is,
True.
I don't know where we're at. So,
Is engine 2 still passing pump test?
yes, it still passes pump test, it still does everything it needs to. It's just the fact that it's 30-plus years old.
I was in when we had that wreck out west of town.
Yes.
All right.
Done drilling it?
Thanks, Chief.
We're done drilling it?
All right, thank you, Chief Robinson. Okay, the next department to look at is the city attorney's office. We have had one change in here over the last year in that our legal assistant is now a certified paralegal, so we were able to change that job description to a paralegal, which you can see. So the office is ran with the city attorney, paralegal, and I will let city attorney Maberry.
Leave you sitting there.
I hope I didn't offend her. We'll let her go through the detail with you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Honorable Council. So in regard to, right now we are allocated with one city attorney, one paralegal, and the city attorney's office is actually structured to include a deputy city attorney, and it's a position that's been frozen for, I believe, since about 2021 or 2022. And so as a result, the full range of a lot of the city attorney's duties have been really, we've had to really bust our humps to make sure we are able to get everything done. So virtually every aspect of city operations that requires legal oversight falls primarily on my shoulders. And legal review encompasses a broad spectrum of every operation in the city practically. So in regard to salaries right now, we've got the budget does include only for city attorney and the paralegal. However, as just for consideration, a deputy position has been frozen. And a deputy position, if and when it would be unfrozen, would go to assist city attorney operations as well as vital assistant to other departments, primarily areas like community development, code enforcement. There are big gaps in assistance in legal regarding dangerous buildings, abatements, and getting that process through where we have been bottlenecked due to lack of resources. But that's just as an FYI on that regard. So in regard to, I'm not quite sure how I went through these. So then just go through these. From last year, we're asking for an increase in the consultant contract line. I'm not sure where everybody is on their sheets. So we went through personnel benefits, so contractual services. We are asking for a little bit of an increase. Actually, we're not. Never mind. We're not asking for an increase. So anyway, I just want to touch what's going on in each of these. On consultant contracts, that is primarily for witness fees and outside counsel. And outside counsel goes to those types of things that are, for example, right now we're working on franchise agreements and right-of-ways, and working with specialized counsel, that is their specialty area. And the current counsel who we are working with has worked with the city before, all the way back to I believe 2007 at least. So he is familiar with the city's processes, but also in regard to applying the required standards from the federal and state for all of the franchise, whether it is natural gas, electricity, communications, and all those sorts of things. We also have included in that consultant contract some of the, I believe this is where we also put some of the outside for when insurance claims that we've got coverage from through LGLP. So this would be for any types of those liability issues. Dues and publications is one that has increased substantially. The reason for that is because of the Civic Plus Muni Code to be able to codify everything online. And that has a large upfront setup fee and implementation where we're working closely with them. I do hope to have to begin doing some work sessions with council in the next several months before we can get that all online. So with the Civic Plus, there's still about $7,000 left on the initial balance for the install and implementation. Then there is an annual $3,700 subscription to keep everything going. Supplies is mostly things like envelopes, things like that, highlighters. We don't use a whole lot of those, but the big thing that we do have that is a little bit different from some of the other departments are the classification folders for files for prosecutions and different files that we have to keep up in the city attorney's office. So that's really where, you know, our $1,000 goes over the year is file folders. There are a couple for travel and training is also an increase. The big reason for that increase is IMLA. IMLA is the International Municipal Lawyers Association, and they, not having other legal resources locally, they provide an international resource for a lot of the same things that all municipalities are dealing with, which is, you know, your code enforcement, your policing, and this is actually where a lot of the specialized counsel, outside counsel, and those relationships have come from IMLA contacts and resources. So it's just an amazing resource to have. And so in October, they are having their annual conference in New Orleans. And I'd really like to attend that conference in order to make those relationships so that we have those contacts going forward when things like franchise agreements, other specialty things that don't come up that often, but we need somebody that is a subject matter expert. May I answer any questions for council?
So, could we, at the next meeting, have kind of a view of a deputy city attorney? How much that would cost? How much would that increase this department's budget? Also looking at either them or the paralegal, being that their costs be separated in half between the attorney and between community development, like you just spoke about, just to see what the numbers look like for that request.
I did pull some numbers. Right now I went online to, just for Wyoming, the Wyoming State Bar does post a job bank, and there's several there's a lot of deputy county and prosecuting attorneys, so it's something that's in need across the state. And I specifically only looked at governmental entities, county or city. Right now there's only county, deputy county, and where I could find some for deputy, which is the level we're looking at. In Washakie County, the salary range is $74,000 to $82,000. Park County, $72,000. And Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, 87,000. Fremont County, 98, but that's actually the actual head county attorney. Campbell County, 84,000. And so, but these are related to more to prosecution. And so what we would, what my ask would be, yes, some prosecution, but also to assist with community development, to assist in advancing a lot of the programs and directives from council so that we can really be able to focus on moving ahead and making sure that we are able to provide the legal insight that's necessary.
And do you see this position being a hard one to fill, kind of like the finance director, where it's very few people and lots of people need them?
Right. And I think that, and these are just the postings that had salary range. There were several others that didn't. So yes, it is an issue that is statewide. On that, I am also interested in order to start to, in Rawlins, we're losing a lot of professional level employees. And I've spoken to Tom about the possibility of bringing in an intern from the law school for the summer for 2 to 4 months. And that would be, I've actually spoken to the law school. They have some different programs where they help you post for the job. There's some different programs to structure where they offer only credit and they work for free. But because we're Rawlins, it's not the most attractive place. We're not, Jackson or, Cheyenne or some of these other places. And have considered maybe doing a combination where there is some credit, but we might also be able to offer a small salary, $15 to $20 an hour. And I did actually run some numbers. Because it would be part-time, there wouldn't be benefits that would apply to this. There would be workers' comp, and I don't know how to calculate those. That's his specialty.
Yeah, if we could get maybe a ballpark of how much an intern we could.
But the financial impact for anywhere from $15 to $20 for 20 to 30 hours a week for 8 weeks is $24,000 to $4,800. And what we're trying to, what I would...
2,400 to 4,800?
Yes.
Okay.
Did I say something?
You said
different?
1,000.
That's a lot. That's a massive range.
I was like,
Say,
dang.
wow.
And that actually may be realistic.
Walk the job.
Probably get a student then. Is just trying to show, hey, there are opportunities that for a lot of professional growth and you can learn about a lot of things. There's the other attractive thing about working something like this is assuming the program doesn't go away, but is the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. So when you work for the government, your student loans get forgiven after working 10 years.
That is still in effect, right?
Yes, right now it is, right?
Right now.
Yes, right now. And another thing that my office is doing, in a couple weeks, we are going to be working with the high school on their mock interviews. And so just trying to advance, hey, you guys, look here too. You can go far even in your own little hometown.
So is this something that we could furnish them a place to live or stay while it's here?
Well, there's different ways it could be structured, and
And stuff that would they're more wanting to come here because they're coming here and they're gonna put up the money for a place to stay and everything else and all that, they're hard to get them to come here.
Right, and so there's some different ways. I've chatted with Tom about how could we maybe structure something like this. Certainly, if we were to be able to work with the school and offer some kind of credit, but also maybe a little bit of a salary, but maybe we might be able to work with a local hotel to, even if we were to do a governmental rate, right? And if they're coming 3 days a week, that's 2 nights a week. How do we maybe formulate this so that it's not You know, it's an attractive option, and then we can garner interest here in our little community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Our last grouping for tonight is our public works departments that fall within the general fund. We'll talk the enterprise funds at Thursday night, but all of these departments fall within the general fund. This is an area where we restructured the reporting of these departments. So previously, the departments in here of the central warehouse, buildings and grounds, and the green spaces were all outside of Public Works, and we have restructured to bring all of these under the Public Works umbrella. If you look at the staffing summary for Public Works, you will see here again, we would propose a new position to the city that I've called on here an office manager. So as we bring these departments all together, there's going to be about eight different departments reporting to Public Works, and we feel that to support this, we need an office manager that can look at the budgets, the financial impact, take care of all that for all 8 different departments, while we still have an administrative assistant there that would handle the phone calls, the scheduling, and all those things. So we have really built a large department, and as part of the restructuring, what we are looking for here is to come up with common management for all of the operations of the city. So common leadership style for everything that has an operation to it. We want it to fall under Public Works. And with that, we would like to build a management team in there that has supervisors over all of the different areas that can meet as a team to try to find common solutions to things that happen here and that happen over here, that they could all have that common leadership. So one of the new positions that we propose is an office manager. We would have half of their time within the general fund, and we would have half their time in the enterprise funds. So what you would see here is a 0.5 under the full-time. Under the enterprise funds, you will see between the 4 enterprise funds, the 0.5 being allocated over to there. So the other thing there is the office manager would oversee the administrative assistant as well as the utility clerk that are there, so that there would only be one report there to the Public Works Director instead of multiple. We would just add a level of management there. The other change here is the city engineer. We have a part-time engineer, and we charge all of the time currently to the general fund, but a lot of the engineering work performed is within the water, sewer, wastewater funds, and so we would move that percentage from 1 to half the time being charged to the general fund for these. Under the consulting contracts, you will see a large increase there. And what that is just 3 different projects that we have going, and it would just be the outside engineering that we would have for the VFW concessions at the ballparks, the 3rd Street utilities, and the foundation for the new Parks office building. The other schedules down in there are the allocations of the administrative assistant, the office manager, and the public works director. I put those in so that you could see how many ways that will be allocated out. Is there anything, Cody, you'd like to add to the Public Works Administration?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Honorable Council. Like Tom was saying, the Public Works Administration's office, it handles quite a lot of administration dealings as far as between all the 8 different departments. There's also 12 different budgets that they work with all these different departments, and keep all the filing for different permitting, service contracts for, DEQ, EPA, in any kind of invoicing throughout all these different departments. It's also a heavy lift too, as we have approximately 16 different projects that are kind of in the works, and like Tom said, that there was 4 actually moving. So dealing with all these contracts and invoicing for all these projects is going to be a heavy lift for any administration office. So we're really looking, like he said, to build a great administration office, and I feel his direction is going to very much help move this public works forward.
You talked about the part of having all these departments reorganized under one organization to keep them under the same type of leadership style. So, Cody, what's your leadership style?
That's a kind of a hard question.
It's like an interview question.
Good luck.
Yeah, well, I like working closely with, like you said, with all 8 of my superintendents. I've got really good superintendents, and I do not like to micromanage how they run their departments. I am what I call an intermediate between you guys and them and making the mission happen. So I work very closely with all the superintendents. That's why I would like Tom was saying, to have basically what I call it is going to be the round table. We all have all the superintendents around, and we all talk projects where we need help, interdepartmental help, and moving the public works forward.
So you're seeing this change as being very positive as far as?
Yes, I have had
separate.
amazing interaction with all the superintendents, and everybody is excited for all of this to be moving forward.
Good.
So we're all excited about this.
Good.
Just to add to that a little bit,
I'll-
question.
I'll let you finish.
With the restructuring that we did, we really looked hard at leadership style with the different positions, because I felt the way that it was structured, we were asking department heads to show multiple leadership abilities. For instance, community development is like in the future. It's like you are strategizing for the future. It's a vision-driven department, and then to ask the same department head to be a visionary, and then turn around and ask them to be an operational person over here, to ask them to have to do this over here. We wanted it to be just one leadership style that we could have. So everything that kind of fits under operations, we want that to go under. The recreation department is going to focus on revenue generation. And I think that's a full-time leadership capability that has to be developed And at the same time, I just don't want to ask that position to also have to do operational things within the parks and all these different things. So we've really tried to separate it out, take the best person that we have with those leadership qualities and assign those departments there. So Cody will handle all of the operational issues throughout the city where there's an operation behind it. And I think he's excellent at it now, but I think there's room for growth, of course, just natural progression of things. But it will be standardized leadership. It'll be consistent through him and not three different answers to the same question.
Have you thought about maybe a higher level position that would work directly with you? Say like an assistant manager, city manager, that not, because then you would cover your fire, your police, and you could throw in this as well underneath it, which alleviates you to focus more on what we're guiding with. And does that make sense?
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think an assistant city manager or an administrative services director, either one would be beneficial. Because like I said, right now I'm getting pulled a lot of different directions and I should be council oriented. And right now there is a lot with everything else going on to where, like you said, council doesn't get my full attention. And so an assistant would be helpful in here. The only reason I haven't asked for one before is just because of the finances that we're in. If there was sufficient funding there, I would either ask for an assistant or for an administrative assistant. To where right now, Chief Robinson and I are the only ones that do not have an administrative assistant per se 100%. Lynn helps me out tremendously with that, but as the city clerk, she's got other responsibilities too. And so, yeah, I think anything there would help is from administrative assistant up through assistant city manager. So if we ever get to the point that we have those resources, I would definitely be asking.
All right.
All right. Central Warehouse is our shop. It's the mechanics. We currently operate with 2 mechanics in there that are equal in position. That they're just co-workers. Both of them report to the Public Works Director. What we propose in here is a shift from one of those to be able to be the shop superintendent over that, so that we add that level of management and we only have one direct report to the Public Works Director instead of 2, and that shop superintendent will also be a member of that management team at Public Works, where right now they are not, because like I said, that they're of equal position. So one of the changes here would be to promote one of the individuals to a shop superintendent who would oversee the equipment mechanic, but they'd also be responsible for the shop area itself and all things in there as a direct report to the Public Works Director. So that is one change, would be a new position. The other change in here that you will see comes under contractual services, heavy equipment maintenance. In the past, we've just always stuck in a large sum of money for the equipment maintenance, upwards of $100,000 in there. And every repair that is done through there, equipment-wise, hits that account. And I feel very strongly that we need to charge that to the originating department, because those repairs should be charged against the department that actually owns and operates the equipment. And so you will see a slight decrease in that heavy equipment maintenance. We feel that we can even decrease this account more by allocating more out to the different departments. The larger ones, of course, are the enterprise funds, where right now most of their repairs and maintenance are charged to the general fund, and we feel that should go against the water fees that are paid. Anything else you'd like to add to that one? Okay, any other questions on that one? The streets department operates with 7 individuals with 1 foreman. And then we have 6 other municipal workers that range between a 1 and a 4. In there, the only change that we would like to make to that is we feel that the streets foreman should be compensated like the other managers within that management team. And right now, compensation falls outside of that. Right now, we want that position to be a functioning part of that management team and feel like they're part of that management team. We don't know how the salaries were set in the past, but we feel that is one position that should be increased so that it is comparable with their peers within Public Works. The capital item here is a street sweeper that they are asking for at $375,000. The other cost under materials and supplies here is the asphalt plant, the operation. So we have hot mix plant, materials, and the different things to operate that fall under this. Anything there you'd like to add?
No, just like Tom says, I'm looking to building a good management team, having that leadership role in the streets department, because it is a very large department in our city. And I like I said, I just would like to have all managers sitting at the same table. And as far as our capital ask, we went over all of our equipment and what is needed the most out of this department, and looking at age of our equipment, a street sweeper is makes the most sense in the rest of the equipment. We have 2 street sweepers right now, and one of them has over 4,000 hours on it, and it's a 2007, and it has a lot of issues. If we lose a street sweeper, we're down to just the 1. We average about 500 tons of salt sand every winter. So to have 1 street sweeper try to tackle that it just won't happen. And with 86 miles of city road in here, and these street sweepers have to do anywhere from 2 to 4 passes on any given one side of the street. So if you put 2 sides to it, you're doubling everything, and then it's 3 to 4 passes per side. So what we're looking at is a more robust street sweeper. It handles more large volume, or what we deal with here in this town. It's got a big sweeper in the back and 2 small ones on the side. So it's basically what we're looking at is a 1-pass sweeper to help us out with the amount of work that we create with keeping our streets safe in the wintertime, with the amount of volume of salt we put down.
Will the old one be able to be traded in?
So we've got another really old one down at the asphalt plant that sits around that we're looking to trade in. What we'd like to do is keep this old one as a backup. So that way we'd have 3. If one goes down, we're still running 2. If all of them are running good, we got 3 in town and we can get the town cleaned up a lot faster than we could just with our 2 smaller sweepers.
A couple of questions. How long would it take to order one in? I mean, do you order it and it comes in right away, or is it another long-term item, kind of like the fire engine?
I think we could probably get one within a year. You know, in talking with some of the dealers on what we're looking for, there is some that are in stock, and we could probably go out and purchase one after we put it out to bid.
Another question is this completely full? I know in the past we've had been short-staffed as far as the streets division.
We did lose one this early summer. He took another job, so we're down to 6 right now.
But 7 is your,
Yes,
that you're
that's
full
full
at
staff.
7.
Yeah.
But we are looking for that,
Yeah.
advertising that position, correct? Okay. Thank you.
I had a couple questions on, so you're just, the first one's on staffing. Are you still seeing a turnover, a constant turnover with that staff?
Yes, in the streets department, that is one of the departments we have an issue with.
Do we have an idea, is it the pay, with the pay schedule that we just put out, is that gonna help? Or is this, because if I remember right, it was roughly $16 an hour they were getting paid? These are the guys.
Starting upwards of 18 now
18
with the change.
with the change, but it was 16.
Yes.
And they're the ones repairing the pipes down in the water.
No, that's utilities.
Oh, that's utilities.
Yeah.
Okay. But they're in the winter maintaining all the roads and everything. They're out in.
Yes, and that is really the challenge in this department, is the ask of what their job is. You know, you have to get a class. Some of them have to have a Class A CDL to drive those. You're talking large equipment, loaders, snow plows, laser machines. We have Durapatch machines. You're running the asphalt plant. I mean, it is a very labor-intensive job, and you go anywhere else in the world for jobs, careers in this same realm, the pay scale is a lot higher.
Well, and that Class A, that's pretty expensive to get anymore, isn't it? To get a CD or even a CDL. Didn't the state change something, or the feds, to get those?
So that there has been a change in there. There is schooling that has to be done. It's an online class, and we provide the online class. They have to pay for their to take the test and get their license, as they will hold that the rest of their life. But we pay for all the schooling. I want to say it's like 80 hours of online classes that they have to take for a Class A. And then we go through training. Every Friday we do walk around training for the trucks. We do driver's trainings in the trucks and get them prepped and ready to go for the license itself.
What's a rough estimate to train one guy to let's say the Class A, just to get it? I mean, because if we're having turnaround,
yeah,
it's a loss every single time. So if we take that loss into account and boost their pay so that we start retaining, we're not losing that money anymore. What do you
I
think?
would have to look into that for you. I mean, I'm not quite sure what the online training classes, how much those cost per person. We have HR sign them up for those classes. So I'd have to look into that. And then the rest of it is just personnel training, their time in the trucks with another licensed driver, how much time that actually takes them to do it, and that can vary from any individual, from how long and how comfortable the trainer feels with them driving that equipment, but you're talking both of their time a couple times a week for an hour or two.
And they help. Have they helped in the past with maybe I'm thinking the other direction again, with the sewer break or the water breaks?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If we have big emergencies that tend to arise every now and again, we call everybody in. And our streets department has always been a great help to our utilities department when we need them, offering up anything that they have.
Is this something that we could look at if they start out without the CDL and all that? Once they accomplish the CDL, get all of the training done, all that and everything else, that we can determine a raise of some kind that will give them the incentive to go with that, you know, and stay. I mean, that way, if they get halfway through and drop out, we're not out a bunch of money. But if they stay with it, then we can boost their pay to incentive them to stay.
Kind of like a probation period.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're looking at with this new pay scale. The operator 1, 2, and 3s. You know, once you get your so many hours and so much in pieces of equipment, and you gain your CDL, then that's when we start moving them up to the class 2, where they'll get a raise. And after the 6 months where you're supposed to have a CDL in hand, even if it's a class B and you're working towards your A, then there is also a raise in that 6 months that we give everybody to get that CDL. So there is little incentive points on moving forward with this new pay scale. And I think that's going to help with longevity.
Also with the new HR director, it might be something to look at, not only for streets, but also for our police department, where we have something contractual that says if we pay for all your training, you're going to stay here for so many years, or you're going to pay us back. I don't know how far that can go or anything. HR director would definitely something that they could look into.
Councilmember Elliott?
Going back to the street sweeper, does that have an attachment for the sidewalks? I have a lot of problems with, I don't know, is it gravel or whatever gets thrown on the ground and it's not ever swept up from the sidewalks? So people have a hard time walking on it, and if they're in a wheelchair or an electric scooter, they're not able to use the sidewalks.
In looking at this piece of machine, we haven't actually put hands on it to see. We know that the smaller sweepers do extend out to some extent or another. But in that, we've already bought a broom for a couple of our skid steers. It's a front end broom to help sweep these sidewalks. I completely agree. We need to get the sidewalks, especially in entrances into town, looking good. That's one of my main missions moving forward, is beautification on the 3 entrances into town. I've already started to talk to my superintendents about a program this spring to get everything cleaned up and make the entrances looking good again. And in anticipation of that, we purchased a broom for one of our streets department skid steers. It's a very large broom that we can sweep into the street and then have our smaller street sweepers pick that up. Also in the Parks Department, we have a couple different brooms that can run up and down the sidewalks. One of them is a little John Deere broom that can basically drive right down the sidewalk, and we're going to start a program to sweep the sidewalk off, have the street sweeper behind it, and kind of take care of it all at once.
That sounds good.
So that's already a program that we're working towards in the near future.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a couple questions. I'm going to go on the lines of what Daryl did. First thing is, do you feel that 7 people in this department is enough?
In what the streets department covers, I would like to see more there. Now, being in the general fund, we did remove one a while back. When you're talking street maintenance in the summertime and asphalting, all they can really do with 7 men is maintain. It takes a full crew, all 7 men, to run the laydown machine, run the plant, and man the trucks and the rollers. It takes all 7 of them, and we have to shut down process every time we go. Start the plant back up, get another load, fill a couple trucks that we have, and get back out and start working it again. So our maintenance is very slow process with 7 men. Like I said, I would like to see more in the future, but I know right now we work with what we have.
And I forgot what the second question was, so we'll go on.
Vice Mayor?
I do have a good question for that. Is it correct that when, let's say somebody does a sewer project and they got to tear up the road in front of their house, that patch that has to be done, is it to my understanding, the city has to patch that, correct?
They pay for a street cut permit
Yeah.
where we come back and patch it back, yes.
So, one of the things that we could alleviate and is allow for another contractor to come in and patch, correct? We could have them, because I mean, we hire a contractor to build the roads. If we can allow that, can we not do the same and allow them to, instead of paying us to patch it, just pay a contractor and say, hey, if it needs to be done in a certain amount of time, and the contractor comes in and patches the road, could that would alleviate a lot of the issue that you guys run into where you have all these, over the winter that came up that we had to dig out, whatever, and then they get all compiled to in the summer when you can patch. Because some of these crews, they got the machinery to do it in the winter. Why wouldn't it be in our best interest to allow them to do that?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I believe that if we did do that, it's kind of hard for the citizens as there is no other current asphalt plant that I know that is functioning. 71 has one that they run every now and again, but I don't think that they're open all summer long. And I don't know how that would actually play out. I don't believe, or I would like to get into selling of asphalt to contractors, as we don't have the staff to run have an asphalt plant manned at all times. On another note on that asphalt plant, that plant was built in 1979 with parts from other plants. It is not a functioning asphalt plant per se. It's on its last leg like a lot of things.
Right. So if they can do it though, without having yours or use 71s or wherever they get their asphalt, however they get it here to do the work, would that be in our best interest to allow them to do the work?
I would say absolutely. We could look at, the street cut fees. The way we structured it is for equipment, manpower, and material to be installed. If that was a possibility in the future, we can look at a lower fee for that because we aren't doing the work. So there used to be a street cut permit for $25.
Right.
If they wanted to just get that and do all the work themselves, then we could stay out of it. But the hard part is we've seen in the past that these aren't getting fixed in a good amount of time. They can probably go a year or so, and then we start getting complaints from residents.
And that would just be something we'd have to enforce, say, if it's not done in this amount of time, then we're gonna step in and do it, and this will be the fee for it, or there's always a fix for something like that, but right now, we have the same issue as the compiling of when it's gonna get done, so if it can alleviate you guys to allow you to do other jobs that are more important than a little patch, I would be all for supporting that.
That is one of our biggest problems when we are asphalting in the summertime is, all the street cut permits that were issued throughout the winter, the ones that didn't get done the year before because of piling up. We have water break patches that we have to do for our own city. And in all that too, we have a new program. We got an old piece of equipment out called a Durapatch machine. Basically, it mixes dirt and gravel, and we can kind of fix up some of the really bad asphalt areas on these roads. So we're running that program as well. So getting all those to work together is, we do struggle with repairing all patches. And then doing overlay projects, which we usually pick 1 or 2 bad streets a year that will do like a 1-block overlay on it to make it a little bit better until we can actually do a full project on it.
Thank you. Did you give you enough time to think of that question? Did I give you enough time to think of that question?
No, I forgot. It's not been that important.
Okay, Building Maintenance Department, this is our facilities, or commonly referred to as buildings and grounds. This department has experienced the highest turnover throughout the city that we looked at a meetings ago, the turnover here has been upwards of about 50% a year within this department. It currently has a supervisor, 2 facilities maintenance mechanics, and 2 custodians that are within here. The one thing that I'd like to mention here that affects all of Public Works is we are including within the budget funds for a work order system, so that we are able to make assignments, so that the Public Works Director can make assignments from his office. Staff will be able to receive those assignments when they're in the field, report back to their supervisor, and eventually back to Public Works Director. We do not have a system as such right now. It's a lot of whiteboards and different things, so that's one that we'd even like to get into as soon as we can, even within this fiscal year. What the buildings and grounds maintenance line item under contractual services is one of those that we want the department head to be responsible for their facilities, and so we are allocating part of that to the different departments so that we can get an actual cost, within those departments, what it takes to operate those departments. So you will see that number is substantially decreased, but it is increased within the other departments that it affects. The last one in here, just for informational purposes, is streetlights. So all of the streetlights throughout the city of Rawlins that belong to the city, the power all comes out through this account. It costs the city about $130,000 for street lighting throughout the city, which is the parking lots, the street lights, downtown, the colorful lights that we have, and everywhere else through town. And it runs right at about $130,000 a year for those lights. Anything else on building maintenance that you would like to add?
And with this staff too, they also take care of all the burials at the cemetery, so they are our current cemetery crew as well. And with this maintenance staff, they maintain 40 different buildings in the city of Rawlins, so it's quite a heavy lift for this department as well.
Is there a specific reason why there's high turnover? Was it also paying at a very low rate that we've just increased? Or is there anything else we can do to try to keep these people working?
Yes, it's pay. We're also struggling with finding people that have any kind of background in building maintenance. We don't get a whole lot of people that have any kind of knowledge coming into Public Works. It's usually the younger generation coming in and trying to find a job, and it kind of scares them once they get involved. So.
Okay.
Councilmember Patterson.
With you saying that the lighting in town is over $130,000 a year, is there any alternative out there that once a light goes bad, we can change it with a lower power consumption type?
So what we're doing, the lights that the city takes care of is mainly the decorative lights downtown. We have a few other ones like up 3rd Street that we're going to have to take care of, that are older ones that the city owns, but those will be in the 3rd Street rehabilitation project that we're going to do with YDOT here in the next couple of years. We're going to put all new lighting out there. But with these decorative poles that we have, we've been changing over all of these poles, like a few at a time, to an LED system, which can cut down the power usage. I think we're probably gonna have to do a study in the future about how much draw it is. I don't really think there's ever been a study done by the power company to see how much we're pulling out of there. So I think that's something that we should look into in the future.
Thank you.
I just had a comment for the software you were talking about. I know we've talked about this. We used to have a software that did exactly what you're saying. Was that we didn't own it outright, right? It was just
Correct.
per user base.
Subscription.
Oh, okay. Do you remember that, Jackie? Or
No.
Mayor, sorry. I apologize. It's my turn to do
It
it.
was called Dude Solutions.
Oh, okay. I really liked it. So for everybody, if you've not seen it, the way it was really a nice program. You could see the progress as projects were getting done, and so people would go in there and they put updates and say, you know, this project had 5 pieces to it, and whoever's working on the 3rd piece, if they finished, it would show so much of the project's done, and then so on. And as it was nice because the transparency, and then it was like a monthly kick out report that we got to see. And I was just curious, that question you had for the code enforcement, would he be able to utilize this program as well?
I don't know the answer to that. I think they would be in a different system, I would guess, in that theirs is more about location.
Okay.
If they were to track progress, it would definitely fit that. So if they had, you know, progress towards 100%, it would definitely fit a work order in there.
Because I was thinking the progress would be, okay, well, I notified him today. We give him 7 days, and then there's this, you know, the process that he goes through. If I'm understanding correctly, he kind of does that, doesn't he? So
Yeah, we can look at that.
maybe kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
The county also has a system. I don't know what they utilize, but you might ask them.
We saw a demonstration on one called Maintain X, and it was a really good system. The only issue is that all the data that we're trying to track, as far as like salary cost or parts cost, we have to go maintain the database. There isn't a link into our general ledger system. So right now, we don't have sufficient staff to keep those numbers current to know what the actual cost is. With an office manager, we can maybe look at that more.
Would it help with the water billing, or with the, I can't remember what it is. It's like the tracking of not maintenance. I can't think. I'll think of it and I'll ask at another time.
Okay. All right, the last department for tonight is the green spaces. That's our parks department. Previously, this department was under the umbrella of the Parks and Recreation Department. Here again, we've identified how they operate is more closely related to public works, we feel like. So we are in the process of moving the supervision of the green spaces to the Parks and Recreation Department. This is one of the departments where we have a currently frozen position. So the staff there has always had a superintendent and an assistant superintendent, and then they've usually have operated with 3 different technicians. But last year, as one of those positions were vacated, we froze that position removed it from the budget to help us balance the budget. So for our purposes today, we've added that back in as if it is unfrozen. And if we end up freezing it again, it will be removed. But we wanted to have a clear picture of our staffing. So that third position is here. The other position is an equipment manager right now, and this position shares times with the golf, I believe, that works on the carts and the different things at the golf department. So that's why it's 0.4, and then within the golf department, you'll see a 0.6 there for that. So you will see salaries and wages have an increase there, and that is why, is that we just put that frozen position back in the budget. The benefits are a little higher because, again, we budgeted the family health insurance, not knowing, who we're gonna hire there.
So how do we work the summer employees? How does that work through?
Yeah, so the salaries, if you look there, there's a full-time, and then there's overtime, and then there's temporary. We put the part-time summer employees under temporary, so that we don't break them out, I guess, as like an FTE. They're just part-time throughout the summer in there, or whatever season that we have there, more likely the summertime. The other thing that I'd like to mention with this is we currently do not utilize a cemetery department. The cemetery costs are included within the green spaces. And we would like to break out and create a cemetery department that we can track cemetery costs in that are separate from the green spaces. And with that, we are proposing to council the addition of 2 part-time staff for the cemetery. That would either be summertime employees that could help with the watering, the mowing, and those types of things at the cemetery, which would free up parks crews to go to the parks and the other things like that. We have also identified several items within the cemetery that we would like to take on up there, beautification items within the cemetery, fixing some of the headstones up there, planting some trees, and those types of things that we would like to put into a cemetery department, for accounting purposes that we currently do not have. It's just all within the parks side of it.
I do know that other communities sometimes have a cemetery board. I don't know if that would be anything we might consider, but I know we created one with Parks and Rec a couple years ago, and it's been quite successful. It's just something to consider, maybe getting a cemetery board. More people invested into it. And then pests are an issue up there.
What's that?
Pests. They're
not that bad.
They're pretty bad.
They're a huge problem right now. The Parks Department, we currently got one employee that just got his certification to do pest removal. So we have one city staffer, and we are working with Weed and Pest this year. They put out a bunch more bait stations out there that are inside the tubes, that are safe for the public, but those little critters get in there and eat whatever they eat, they don't come back. So we do got a program going right now to try to eliminate
Mitigate
some
that,
of those.
yeah.
We want to offer the public to come out and chase them if they wanted to.
I think there'd be lots of
BB guns.
volunteers to,
Shoot them.
yeah.
BB gun day at the cemetery?
But then if they miss, yeah. Did we ever get the curtains?
Yes.
Are they put out there yet?
I'm currently working with Tom we have the company, we got them pretty much ready to go. We just have to actually do a purchase for them. So
Okay.
those should be coming very shortly.
Good. And I do like the idea of a cemetery board. That's a good idea.
I don't see it on here. So the sprinkler system's been a big issue, right? So we're paying somebody, I can't remember the numbers, a lot. Every week or every day, they spend how many hours out there making sure everything's watered?
I want to say one person, almost 40 hours a week,
Okay, so. and that-
depending.
What is that? So that's, when do you start watering?
Probably within the next few weeks, we're gonna start taking on about
Mid-April?
May, I
Okay,
would think.
May. And you probably stop in October.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's quite a bit of money we're spend to have one person to make sure all the watering is going on, correct? And I'm sure they're doing other things, but my point is, for as long as I've been on council, we've put this off. And no, it's quite a bit of money to fix this, but if we fix this, the money we save on this position, just watering, can help pay for your 2 positions you want to help with everything else. And on top of that, we will be saving money on the water that's wasted, because manual running a system like that, you're gonna have more waste than an automated system, correct? So I would like to see it in the budget. And I don't know about the rest of the council, but I think it'd be great to get that taken care of, because every year we've put it off. By now we could have paid for it. The amount of years I've been on council. So, I don't know if everybody else is interested in maybe having this as just maybe a budget for it that we could say, look at to approve or not approve. But
It would be nice to have the numbers.
and it'll help with the beautification. I mean,
Is that what you're gonna say?
and
Yeah.
we had a really good walkthrough of the cemetery, and that was one of the bigger points of it, is the beautification of the cemetery as a whole, but the water system was a big one. Our park superintendent is currently looking into what it would cost to put basically programmers at the beginning of it, to where they can actually start working themselves. And then I would see what that cost would be, and maybe we can just start a program where we're installing those in a few rows a year, so we're not trying to tackle the whole cemetery at one time. And start a program where if we can start alleviating some of that time where it's going towards the digital part, that would help us out in the future, and then we're not trying to take a big chunk in 1 year to fix the whole cemetery. There's a lot of work in the sod that needs to be done prior to even putting sprinkler systems in. We can put nice systems in, but if there's no grass to water, that's, I feel, is kind of pointless. I would like to see some of those areas get new sod or new seeded out correctly and going in the right direction, and then putting automated systems to that to keep those going.
they're getting watered already, right? When you
Yes.
run it manually. So
Yeah.
I agree with you. I mean, if we could step it out, that's the best way, because it's not such a big hit. But at the same time, once it's done, you see immediate relief on your funds anyway. So either way, I think it's a win.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I'd like to see it if possible.
I'd be interested in the numbers, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, is that everything? All right. With no further business to come before the council, the meeting will adjourn at 8:36 PM. And our next meeting will be April 3rd. Not April 3rd.
We're going back in time.
10th. Starting at 6 p.m.
The 10th.
It's not 1 o'clock.
I know.
We can't be.
Yes, we can. Speak for yourself.
You can sit here.
Yeah, we got 3 more meetings.
Yeah, we didn't even break in the new council meeting at 1 a.m.
You don't have to.
We're good.
Great work.